Commander Jake Harrison rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the screen again. The numbers had not changed. After 15 years of mapping space for the Terran Exploration Corps, he thought he had seen everything, but this was different. This was impossible. His office on the survey ship Dawn's Edge was small and cramped. Charts covered every wall. Star maps hung from the ceiling. His desk was buried under data tablets and holographic displays. Most people would call it messy. Jake called it organized chaos. The problem had started 3 weeks ago. Jake was updating the main galactic database when he noticed something odd. Every alien star chart they had collected showed the same strange pattern. The maps were incredibly detailed. They showed trade routes that were millions of years old. They marked dangerous asteroid fields and resource-rich planets. Some charts even showed the locations of long-dead civilizations, but they all stopped at the same place. Right at the edge of human space. Jake pulled up another map on his main screen. This one came from the Zephyrian Empire. The insect-like aliens were known for their perfect record-keeping. Their map showed every star system within 50,000 light-years. Every planet, every moon, every space station. But when the map reached the borders of human territory, it just ended. No explanation. No warning. Just empty space where human colonies should be. Lieutenant Amy Parker walked into his office, carrying a steaming cup of coffee. She was young, maybe 25, with bright green eyes and short blonde hair. She had been assigned to Jake's team 6 months ago. She was smart and eager to learn. Sometimes too eager? Still working on the mapping project? She asked, setting the coffee on his desk. Take a look at this, Jake said, pointing to the screen. Tell me what you see. Amy leaned closer. Her eyes scanned the display. It's a Zephyrian navigation chart. Looks pretty standard, very detailed. Wait, she paused. Why does it stop here, right at the human border? Exactly. Now look at this one. Jake switched to another map. This one was from the Cathari, a race of stone-skinned traders who had been traveling the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Their map showed the same thing. Perfect detail everywhere except human space. Maybe they just don't trade with humans? Amy suggested. Jake shook his head. The Cathari have been doing business with Earth for 30 years. They know where our colonies are. They've been to half of them. He pulled up another chart. This one is from the Ethereals. They're explorers, not traders. They map everything they find, but look. The crystalline beings chart was even more detailed than the others. It showed gas clouds and stellar phenomena that most races ignored. But again, it stopped at human space like hitting an invisible wall. This is weird, Amy said. How many alien maps have you looked at? 47 from 12 different species. They all do the same thing. Jake leaned back in his chair. Some of these maps are thousands of years old. Some are brand new. But they all have the same gap. Amy picked up one of the data tablets from his desk. What about this one? It looks different. Jake glanced at the tablet. That's from a derelict ship we found last month. Vorthek merchant vessel. It had been drifting for about 3,000 years. 3,000 years? Amy's eyes widened. But humans didn't leave Earth until 200 years ago. That's what makes it interesting. Look at the date stamp. Amy studied the tablet. The alien writing was hard to read, but the date was clear. The map was created 3,200 years ago, long before humans had ever seen the stars. But when she looked at the chart itself, she saw the same impossible thing. The map stopped exactly where human territory existed today. This doesn't make sense, she said. How could they know where human space would be thousands of years before humans left Earth? Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars stretched in all directions. Somewhere out there were human colonies, farms and cities on distant planets, space stations and mining operations. All of it was invisible on alien maps. I've been thinking about that, he said. What if they didn't know where human space would be? What if something else made them stop mapping those areas? Like what? I don't know. But something is keeping alien civilizations from mapping our territory. something that's been doing it for thousands of years. Amy set down the tablet. Have you asked any of the alien ambassadors about this? Not yet. I wanted to be sure first. Jake turned back to his desk. But I think it's time we found out what they know. He pulled up the communication system and sent a message to Ambassador Lisa Grant on the diplomatic station Harmony Point. The message was simple. Jake explained what he had found and asked for a meeting with the Galactic Council while they waited. For a reply, Jake and Amy continued studying the maps. The more they looked, the stranger it became. The gap in alien charts was not random, it was precise. It followed the exact boundaries of human space. Not just current human space, but areas that humans had claimed but not yet settled. Look at this, Amy said, pointing to a section of the ethereal chart. This area here. We just sent a colony ship there last month, but the map is 5 years old. How did they know to leave it blank? Jake studied the section she indicated. The Kepler 442 system, a perfect planet for human settlement. The colony ship Horizon had left Earth 4 weeks ago. But the ethereal map, created 5 years earlier, showed empty space where the system should be. It's like someone told them to leave room for us, Jake said quietly. The communication system chimed. A message from Ambassador Grant appeared on the screen. She would meet with the Galactic Council in 2 days. She wanted Jake to prepare a full report on his findings. Jake spent the next 48 hours putting together every piece of evidence he had found. Charts from different species, maps from different time periods, all showing the same impossible pattern. When he was finished, he had a file that would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. The night before the meeting, Jake couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations had been avoiding human space for thousands of years. They had perfect maps of everything else. But when it came to the regions that would become humanity's home, they left them blank. The question that kept him awake was simple but terrifying. What did the aliens know about human space that humans didn't? And why were they so afraid to map it? Amy found him there in the morning, still staring out at the stars. Ready for the meeting? She asked. Jake nodded. As ready as I can be for something that might change everything we think we know about humanity's place in the universe. The communication system activated. Ambassador Grant's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. Commander Harrison, she said, are you absolutely certain about your findings? Yes, ma'am. Every alien chart we've examined shows the same pattern. They avoid mapping human space like it's forbidden territory. Then, it's time we got some answers. The Galactic Council is waiting. Jake took a deep breath. In a few hours, he would ask the galaxy's most powerful civilizations a question that had been haunting him for weeks. He would ask them why their maps stopped. At human territory, he had a feeling that the answer would be more terrifying than the question itself. Ambassador Lisa Grant adjusted her formal blue uniform and checked her reflection in the mirror one last time. The monthly Galactic Council meeting was always important, but today felt different. Today she would ask questions that might shake the foundation of human understanding. The diplomatic station Harmony Point floated in neutral space, exactly between the territories of the 5 major galactic powers. The station was huge, big enough to house representatives from dozens of different species. Its central chamber could hold thousands of beings, all talking and arguing in hundreds of different languages. Lisa walked through the corridors toward the main meeting hall. Dr. Carl Bennett walked beside her, carrying a datapad filled with Commander Harrison's research. Carl was a xenopsychologist, an expert in how alien minds worked. His job was to watch the aliens' reactions and tell Lisa what they really meant. Remember, Carl said quietly, different species show fear in different ways. The Zephyrians click their mandibles when they're nervous. The ethereals dim their light. The Cathari start touching their stone skin. Lisa nodded. She had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years. She knew the aliens' habits well, but she had never seen them truly afraid before they entered the Great Hall. The chamber was enormous. with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their assigned areas. The insect-like Zephyrians buzzed quietly among themselves. The crystalline ethereals glowed with soft blue light. The stone-skinned Cathari sat perfectly still, as they always did. High Counselor Vextari called the meeting to order. The ancient Cathari's voice echoed through the chamber. We gather as we have for 3,000 years, to discuss matters of mutual interest and galactic peace. Lisa listened to the usual business. Trade disputes, border disagreements, resource allocation. All the normal things that kept the galaxy running. But her mind was on the questions she would ask when her turn came. Finally, Vextari called her name. Ambassador Grant of the Terran Republic, you requested time to address the council. Lisa stood up. The chamber became quiet. All eyes turned. To her, she could feel the weight of their attention. Honored counselors, she began, I come before you today with questions about our shared maps of the galaxy. She activated her holographic display. Commander Harrison's research appeared in the air above the chamber. Map after map showed the same strange pattern. Perfect detail everywhere except human space. As you can see, Lisa continued, every star chart created by your civilizations shows the same anomaly. Your maps end at the borders of human territory. We would like to know why. The reaction was immediate and shocking. The chamber fell into complete silence. Not the normal quiet of a meeting, but the deep silence of fear. The Zephyrians began, clicking their mandibles rapidly. The sound filled the air like breaking glass. The ethereal's light dimmed until they were barely visible. Even the normally calm Cathari shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Carl leaned closer to Lisa. They're terrified, he whispered. All of them. I've never seen anything like this. High Counselor Vextharius' stone face showed no emotion, but Lisa could see his hands trembling slightly. Ambassador Grant, he said slowly, some topics are not suitable for public discussion. But this affects all of us, Lisa replied. Humans have been part of the galactic community for 30 years. We have the right to know why our space appears to be forbidden territory on your maps. A younger Zephyrian representative stood up. His mandibles clicked frantically as he spoke. The human speaks of things that should not be spoken. There are protocols, ancient protocols that must be respected. What protocols? Lisa asked. No one has ever told us about any protocols regarding human space. The ethereal delegate's light flickered like a candle in the wind. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Some boundaries exist for good reasons, human. Some knowledge is dangerous to possess. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. These were the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. They had technology that humans could barely understand. They had been traveling the stars for thousands of years, but they were afraid of something in human space. I don't understand, Lisa said. What could be so dangerous about mapping star systems? These are just coordinates and navigation data. The chamber remained silent. Representatives looked at each other nervously. Some whispered in their own languages, but no one answered her. Then something unexpected happened. The oldest member of the council stood up. Admiral Vekmer was a Cathari who had been alive for over 800 years. He rarely spoke in council meetings. When he did, everyone listened. The human asks dangerous questions, he said. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stone. But perhaps it is time for dangerous answers. The chamber became even quieter. Lisa could hear her own heartbeat. Admiral, High Counselor Vextari warned, the old agreements forbid such discussion. The old agreements were made when humans were still primitive, Vekmore replied. Now they travel the stars. Now they ask questions. Perhaps they have the right to know why we fear their territory. Lisa stepped forward. Please, Admiral. What are you talking about? What do you fear? The old Cathari looked directly at her. His ancient eyes held depths of knowledge and worry. We fear the silent sector, human. We fear what waits there. We fear what your people came from. The silent sector. Lisa had never heard the term before. That is what we call the region of space where your species originated. For 50,000 years, our ancestors avoided those star systems. For 50,000 years, we have known that something waits there. Something that should not be disturbed. Carl was taking notes frantically. Admiral, can you be more specific? What kind of something? But Thekmor was already sitting down. I have said too much. The old protocols exist for good reasons. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Representatives from different species began arguing loudly. Some demanded that Thekmor explain further. Others insisted that he had already violated ancient laws by speaking at all. Lisa tried to restore order, but it was useless. The revelation had shattered whatever calm the council normally maintained. Finally, High Counselor Vexthari called for an emergency recess. The chamber began to empty as representatives hurried away. Still arguing among themselves, Lisa was preparing to leave when she felt a gentle touch on her arm. She turned to see a young Zephyrian approaching her. The alien's mandibles clicked nervously as he looked around to make sure no one was watching. Ambassador Grant, he whispered in broken standard. I am Zixtala. I am cartographer for my people. I make the maps you spoke of, yes? Lisa kept her voice quiet. What can you tell me? The silent sector is real. We have protocols that are thousands of years old. We are forbidden to map those regions. We are forbidden to even speak of them. But your people came from there. Your species originated in the silent sector. Lisa felt her blood turn cold. What's in the silent sector? What are you all so afraid of? Zixtala's mandibles clicked rapidly. We do not know. Our ancestors left records. They said that something waits there. Something that sleeps but should not be awakened. They said that one day, beings would come from the silent sector. When that day came, everything would change. And you think humans are those beings? Your species came from the Forbidden region. You spread exactly where our maps show empty space. This cannot be coincidence. The alien looked around nervously. I must go, but Ambassador, be careful. If the old stories are true, your people carry a responsibility that you do not yet understand. Before Lisa could ask more questions, Zixtala hurried away. Disappearing into the crowd of departing representatives, Lisa stood alone in the nearly empty chamber. Carl approached her, his face pale. Did you hear what he said? Carl asked Lisa. Nodded. Humanity came from a region of space that terrifies the galaxy's oldest civilizations. A region they call the Silent Sector. And apparently something is waiting there. What do we do now? Lisa looked up at the stars visible through the dome above them. Somewhere out there was Earth, somewhere out there was human space, and somewhere out there was a region called the Silent Sector that held secrets about humanity's true origins. We find out what they're so afraid of, she said. We find out what's really waiting in the Silent Sector. As they left the chamber, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that they had just opened a door that should have remained closed. The galaxy's fear of human space was not just superstition. It was based on something real, something that had been waiting for 50,000 years, and humanity was about to discover what it was. Dr. Susan Wade knelt in the red dirt of Kepler 442b and carefully brushed sand away from the stone tablet. The alien symbols carved into the rock were unlike anything she had seen in 20 years of studying dead civilizations. But what made her hands shake was not the strangeness of the writing. It was how familiar some of the symbols looked. The planet was officially called Kepler 442b, but the colonists who had arrived 3 months ago called it New Eden. It was a beautiful world, with 2 moons and perfect weather. The colony ship Horizon had found it exactly where the alien maps said it would be empty, but it was not empty. It was full of ruins. Susan stood up and looked across the dig site. Her team had been working here for 2 weeks, ever since the colonists had found the first structures. The ruins covered an area the size of a small city. Stone buildings rose from the ground like broken teeth. Carved pillars stood in perfect rows. And everywhere there were symbols that looked almost human. Dr. Wade, called Dr. Kevin Murphy from across the site. You need to see this. Kevin was the team's linguist. He spoke 12 human languages and could read ancient scripts that most people had never heard of. If anyone could make sense of the alien writing, it was him. Susan walked over to where Kevin was working. He was kneeling beside a large stone wall covered in symbols. His face was pale and his hands were shaking. "What is it?" Susan asked. Kevin pointed to a section of the wall. "Look at this symbol here, and this one, and this one." Susan looked where he was pointing. The symbols were clearly alien, but something about them seemed familiar. They had curves and lines that reminded her of very old human writing. "They look almost like Proto-Indo-European," Kevin said. "But that's impossible. This planet is 300 light years from Earth, and these ruins are old." "Really old?" Dr. Rachel Stone approached from the dating station. She was the team's physicist and expert on carbon dating. She had been working around the clock to determine the age of the ruins. "How old?" Susan asked. Rachel checked her tablet. "The carbon dating is consistent across all samples. These structures are approximately 50,000 years old." Susan felt the world spin around her. 50,000 years? But that's impossible. Human civilization is only about 10,000 years old. We didn't even leave Earth until 200 years ago. "I know," Rachel said. "But the dating is accurate. I've run the tests 5 times. These ruins are older than human civilization." Kevin stood up from the wall. "There's something else. I've been working on translating some of the symbols. The ones that look familiar. They're not just similar to early human writing, they're talking about humans." "What do you mean?" Susan asked. Kevin pulled out his translation tablet. "Look at this section here. The symbols translate roughly to the inheritors who will come from the third rock." "The third rock from what?" "The third rock from the sun. That's Earth." Susan stared at the tablet. "You're saying this alien writing mentions Earth?" "Not just Earth. Look at this part. They will claim their birthright among the stars, and here the inheritors will return. When the time is right." Rachel dropped her tablet. "Return? What does that mean, return?" Before Kevin could answer, one of the junior archaeologists came running over. "Dr. Wade, we found something big, really big. You need to come see this right now." They followed him to the center of the dig site. The team had been working to clear away a large mound of dirt and rocks. What they had found underneath made everyone stop and stare. It was a massive stone doorway, carved with symbols that seemed to glow in the afternoon sun. The door was sealed, but there was a small opening at the top. Cool air flowed out of the opening, carrying a strange metallic smell. "It's some kind of chamber," the junior archaeologist said. "The opening is too small for a person, but we lowered a camera inside. What we saw is incredible." He activated a portable screen and showed them the camera footage. The chamber was enormous, bigger than a football field. The walls were covered with symbols and what looked like star charts. But in the center of the chamber was something that made everyone's breath catch. It was a map. Not carved in stone like the rest of the ruins, but somehow projected in the air above a circular platform. The map showed the galaxy in perfect detail. Every star system, every trade route, every inhabited world. But this map was different from the alien charts that Commander Harrison had found. This map showed human space clearly. Not as empty regions, but as areas marked with symbols that Kevin was beginning to recognize. The symbols meant reserved, or waiting, or prepared for the inheritors. "My God," Susan whispered. "Someone was keeping those star systems empty. Someone was waiting for humans to arrive." Kevin studied the symbols around the chamber entrance. "Dr. Wade, I think we need to get inside that chamber. The symbols here are different from the others. They're instructions." "Instructions for what?" "Instructions for opening the door. And they're written in a language that's almost human. As if whoever built this place knew that humans would eventually find it." Rachel checked her equipment. "The chamber is sealed, but the air inside is breathable. There's some kind of life support system still running after 50,000 years." Susan made a decision that would change everything. "We're going in. Kevin, can you figure out how to open the door?" Kevin studied the symbols carefully. After an hour of work, he found the right combination. The massive stone door began to slide open with a sound like distant thunder. Cool air flowed out of the chamber, carrying scents of metal and something else. Something that smelled almost like home. The team entered the chamber slowly. Their lights revealed walls covered with star charts and symbols. The projected map in the center was even more impressive from inside. It showed not just the current galaxy, but the galaxy as it had been 50,000 years ago. And in both versions, human space was clearly marked as reserved territory. "Look at this," Rachel called from one of the walls. "These aren't just star charts, they're historical records." "This symbol here appears to be a timeline." Kevin joined her at the wall. As he studied the symbols, his face grew pale. "Dr. Wade, you need to see this. The timeline starts 50,000 years ago. It shows the rise and fall of different civilizations. But it also shows something else. It shows humanity's path to the stars." Susan approached the wall. "What do you mean?" "The timeline shows human development on Earth, all of it, the rise of agriculture, the development of technology. The first space flights, everything, but it was all planned. Someone knew exactly how human civilization would develop. Someone was guiding it." Rachel had moved to another section of the wall. "Dr. Wade, this is incredible. These symbols show the locations of human colonies. Not just current colonies, but colonies that haven't been established yet. Look at this star system here. We're planning to send a colony ship there next year. But this map shows it as already marked for human settlement." Susan felt a chill run down her spine. How could they know where we were going to expand before we decided ourselves? Kevin had moved to the center of the chamber, where the projected map was showing new information. Because they didn't just predict human expansion, they planned it. "Look at this." The map changed to show a different view. This one displayed the galaxy 50,000 years ago. But instead of showing primitive alien civilizations, it showed something else. It showed human settlements. Thousands of them, spread across the galaxy in patterns that exactly matched where modern human colonies now existed. "This is impossible," Rachel said. "Are you saying humans were already in space 50,000 years ago?" The map changed again. This time it showed what appeared to be a massive conflict. The human settlements were under attack by something that the map displayed as dark, shifting shadows. One by one, the human colonies went dark. The entire civilization was disappearing, but just before the last colony fell, the map showed something else. A final group of humans retreating to a single star system. A star system that the map labeled with a symbol that Kevin recognized. "Sol," he whispered. "They went to the Sol system. They went to Earth." Susan stared at the map. "Are you saying that modern humans are not the first human civilization? That we're descendants of an ancient human empire that once ruled the galaxy?" The map flickered and changed one final time. This version showed the galaxy as it existed today. Modern alien civilizations were displayed in their current locations. But the areas where ancient human colonies had once existed were marked as forbidden zones. The same zones that modern alien maps refused to show. "The aliens know," Rachel sighed quietly. "They know what happened here 50,000 years ago. They know that humans once ruled the galaxy. And they're afraid we'll remember." Kevin was studying more symbols on the wall. There's more. According to this, the retreat to Earth was not a defeat. It was a strategic withdrawal. The ancient humans were planning to return. They left instructions, they left technology. They left star systems empty and waiting. Susan looked around the chamber. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not a young species taking its first steps into the galaxy. They were the inheritors of an ancient empire, returning to reclaim territory that had always been theirs. "We need to contact Earth immediately," she said. "The government needs to know what we found." But as they prepared to leave the chamber, Captain Ben Torres stared at the massive structure floating in the void of space. After 30 years of commanding exploration vessels, he thought he had seen everything the galaxy had to offer, but this was different. This was impossible. The object was huge, easily the size of a small moon. It was clearly artificial, made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a faint blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Captain," said Lieutenant Maria Santos from her position at the scanner station, "I'm getting some unusual readings. The structure is emitting a signal, but it's not like anything in our databases." Ben moved to look over her shoulder. The Starbound sensors were the most advanced that human technology could build, but they were having trouble making sense of what they were seeing. "What kind of signal?" Ben asked. "It's directed specifically at us, sir. The frequency is perfectly tuned to human communication systems, but here's the strange part. The signal appears to have been transmitting for thousands of years, maybe longer." Chief Engineer David Clark looked up from his station. "That's impossible. No power source could last that long." "I know it's impossible," Maria replied, "but that's what the readings show. The signal has been waiting for someone with human technology to detect it." Ben studied the structure through the main view screen. They were at the very edge of human space, in a region that had been marked as empty on every alien star chart ever made, but it was not empty. This ancient construct had been here all along, hidden and waiting. "Signal origin?" Ben asked. "Coming from the center of the structure. There appears to be some kind of chamber or bay that's just the right size for a ship like ours." Ben made a decision that would change everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the universe. "Take us in, but keep weapons ready and shields up." The Starbound moved slowly toward the structure. As they got closer, the symbols on the surface became clearer. They were not random patterns. They were words written in a language that looked almost human, but was older than any human writing Ben had ever seen. "Captain," called Communications Officer Jenny Wright, "I'm picking up something else. It sounds like a voice transmission, but it's very faint." "Put it on speakers." The bridge filled with static, and then a voice emerged. It was speaking in a language that none of them recognized, but somehow they could understand it. The words seemed to bypass their ears and speak directly to their minds. "Welcome, inheritors, we have been waiting for you." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Ben felt his heart racing, but he forced himself to stay calm. "This is Captain Ben Torres of the Earth vessel Starbound. Who are you? How are you speaking?" "Our language?" The voice replied immediately, as if it had been expecting the question. "I am the Keeper. I am what remains of those who came before you. And I speak your language because it is my language. We are the same people, separated only by time." Ben's hands gripped the arms of his captain's chair. "The same people? What do you mean?" "You are human, are you not? Children of the third world. From Sol? Descendants of those who learned to shape metal and tame fire?" "Yes, but ... Then you are our inheritors. You are the children of our children's children, returning to claim what was always yours." The structure's bay doors began to open, revealing a docking chamber that glowed with the same blue light as the symbols. Ben could see that the chamber was perfectly designed for a human ship. "Captain," Maria said quietly, "the chamber has a breathable atmosphere. The technology is far beyond anything we have, but it's clearly designed for humans." Ben made another decision that would reshape humanity's understanding of itself. "Take us in, but everyone stays alert." The Starbound docked with the ancient structure. As soon as the airlock sealed, the voice of the Keeper returned. "Please, come aboard. There is much I must show you, much you must understand before it is too late." Ben selected a small team to accompany him. Maria Santos, David Clark, and Security Chief Robert Hayes. They put on their environmental suits and checked their weapons, though Ben suspected that if this Keeper meant them harm, their weapons would be useless. The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that was clearly built for humans. The height was right, the proportions were familiar, but the technology was incredible. The walls seemed to be made of flowing metal that pulsed with inner light. They followed the corridor to a large chamber. In the center stood a figure that made them all stop and stare. It looked human, but it was clearly not flesh and blood. The figure was tall and pale, wearing robes that seemed to be made of the same flowing metal as the walls. Its eyes glowed with the same blue light that covered the structure. "I am the keeper," the figure said. "I have waited 50,000 years for this moment." Ben stepped forward. 50,000 years? That's impossible. "No one lives that long," the keeper smiled sadly. "I do not live, inheritor. I am what you might call a recording. A shadow of consciousness preserved in crystal and metal. I am all that remains of the civilization that came before you." "What civilization?" Maria asked. The keeper gestured, and the chamber filled with holographic images. They showed a galaxy filled with human colonies. Thousands of worlds where humans had built cities among the stars. Technology that made current human science look primitive. Ships that could travel between galaxies. Weapons that could reshape reality itself. "This was humanity 50,000 years ago," the keeper said. "We had achieved everything that your current civilization dreams of achieving. We had conquered death. We had mastered time and space. We had become as gods." David stared at the images. What happened? Where did they go? The hologram changed to show something else. Dark shapes moving between the stars. Shadows that devoured light and consumed entire star systems. Wherever they went, planets died and stars went out. "We became too powerful," the keeper said. "Our technology attracted the attention of entities from beyond normal space and time. Beings of pure hunger and darkness. They came to our galaxy to feed on the energy we had learned to control." The images showed human fleets fighting desperately against the dark entities. But for every shadow they destroyed, 10 more appeared. The human empire was being devoured from within. "We realized that we could not win through force," the keeper continued. "The entities fed on energy, and our advanced technology only made them stronger, so we made the ultimate sacrifice." Ben felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of sacrifice?" "We erased ourselves from existence. We destroyed our technology. We abandoned our colonies. We retreated to a single world and began again as primitives. We gave up everything we had achieved to starve the entities of the energy they needed." The hologram showed the final retreat. The last human fleets converging on a single blue planet. A world that Ben recognized immediately. "Earth," he whispered. "Yes, we returned to the world where humanity was born. We destroyed all records of our existence. We scattered our people across the planet and let them forget their heritage. We became the ancestors of your current civilization." Robert spoke for the first time. "But why? Why give up so much?" The keeper's expression grew grave. "Because we knew the entities would return. We knew that one day the galaxy would need protectors again. So we left safeguards, we left instructions, we left star systems empty and waiting for our inheritors to return." The chamber filled with new images. These showed the galaxy as it existed now. The alien civilizations that had grown up in humanity's absence. The careful balance that had existed for 50,000 years. "The other species know what happened," the keeper said. "Their ancestors witnessed our fall. They have spent 50,000 years afraid that we would return. They do not map your territories because they fear to acknowledge what you represent." Maria stepped forward. "And what do we represent?" "The return of humanity's guardians. The galaxy's last hope against the ancient darkness." The keeper raised his hand, and the chamber's walls became transparent. Outside, Ben could see space itself, but something was wrong. In the distance, between the stars, there were patches of absolute darkness, voids where no light existed. "The entities are stirring again," the keeper said. "The barriers we created are weakening. The darkness that consumed our civilization is returning, and this time there may be no escape." Ben felt the weight of impossible responsibility settling on his shoulders. "What are you asking of us?" "I am asking you to remember who you are. You are not a young species taking your first steps into the galaxy. You are the inheritors of the greatest civilization that ever existed. Your ancestors sacrificed everything to give you this chance." The keeper walked to a wall covered with strange symbols. As he touched it, the symbols began to glow. "This structure contains everything your people will need. The knowledge of your ancestors, The technology they left behind. The weapons necessary to fight the returning darkness. David stared at the glowing symbols. And if we refuse? If we decide this is too much responsibility? The Keeper turned back to them, and for the first time, Ben saw fear in the ancient beings. Glowing eyes, then the galaxy dies. The entities will consume everything that exists. Every star will go dark. Every world will become empty void. And this time, there will be no one left to make the sacrifice that we made. Admiral Helen Cross sat at the head of the emergency council table in the most secure room on Earth. The report spread before her contained information that would reshape humanity's understanding of itself and its place in the universe. Around the table sat the most powerful people in human space, all trying to process the impossible truth. Captain Ben Torres had returned from his encounter with the Keeper 3 days ago. His report, combined with Dr. Susan Wade's archaeological findings and Ambassador Lisa Grant's diplomatic intelligence, painted a picture that none of them wanted to believe. But the evidence was overwhelming. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," said General Chris Miller, his weathered face grim. "You're telling us that humanity once ruled the galaxy 50,000 years ago, was destroyed by cosmic entities, and now those same entities are returning." "That's correct, sir," Captain Torres replied. "The Keeper showed us the evidence. The dark patches in space are growing larger. The barriers that protected the galaxy for 50,000 years are failing." Dr. Patricia Young, the government's chief advisor on alien affairs, studied the holographic display floating above the table. It showed the galaxy with the growing dark zones marked in red. There were dozens of them, scattered across different sectors, all expanding slowly but steadily. "The alien civilizations must know this is happening," she said. "Their sensors are more advanced than ours. They've probably been tracking these anomalies for years." Ambassador Grant nodded. "That would explain their behavior at the Galactic Council. They're not just afraid of human space. They're terrified of what's coming." Admiral Cross leaned back in her chair. She had commanded human forces for over 20 years, fought pirates and rebels, negotiated with alien governments. But nothing in her experience had prepared her for this moment. "Dr. Young," she said, "in your professional opinion, what would happen if we revealed this information to the general population?" Dr. Young considered the question carefully. "Panic, complete and total panic. The idea that humanity is responsible for protecting the galaxy from cosmic entities would overwhelm most people. We would have religious cults declaring the end times. We would have groups demanding we abandon space and return to Earth. And we would have others insisting we immediately prepare for war against an enemy we barely understand." General Miller slammed his hand on the table. "Maybe that's what we need. Maybe it's time humanity stopped pretending we're just another species and accepted our responsibilities." "And what about the aliens?" Dr. Young countered. "If we announce that we're the inheritors of an ancient human empire, how do you think they'll react? Some might support us, but others might decide that humanity is too dangerous to exist." Captain Torres spoke up. "The Keeper said we don't have much time. According to his calculations, the barriers will completely fail within 10 years, maybe less. 10 years to prepare for a war against entities that destroyed our advanced ancestors," General Miller said grimly. "It doesn't seem like enough time." "Admiral." Cross stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Geneva stretching into the distance. Millions of people going about their daily lives, unaware that their species carried the responsibility for the galaxy's survival. "Captain Torres," she said, without turning around, "this Keeper? You trust him?" "I believe he's telling the truth, ma'am. The technology he showed us was incredible, far beyond anything we have. And the historical records matched what Dr. Wade found on Kepler 442b. Dr. Wade, who had been silent until now, cleared her throat. "Admiral, there's something else. Since we opened the chamber on Kepler 442b, we've detected similar structures on 3 other worlds in human space. All of them are sending signals now. It's like our discovery activated some kind of network." "A network of what?" Ancient human installations, technology caches, knowledge repositories. The Keeper wasn't the only thing our ancestors left behind. Admiral. Cross turned back to the table. How much of this technology have we been able to access? Captain Torres consulted his notes. The Keeper gave us access to basic systems. Improved power generation, better sensors, some defensive technologies. But he said the advanced systems would only activate when we formally accepted our role as guardians. And what does that mean exactly? It means making a choice. Either we acknowledge that we're the inheritors of the ancient human empire and take responsibility for protecting the galaxy, or we remain ignorant until the darkness consumes everything. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the weight of the decision they were facing. It wasn't just about humanity's future. It was about the survival of every living being in the galaxy. Dr. Young spoke first. We need to consider the political implications. If we accept this role, we become the galaxy's self-appointed protectors. Other species might see that as imperialism. And, if we don't accept it, General Miller replied, everyone dies, including us. Ambassador Grant had been studying the diplomatic reports. I've been analyzing the aliens' behavior since the council meeting. Several species have quietly begun moving their populations away from the dark zones. They know what's coming, even if they won't say it openly. Then they're already preparing, Admiral Cross said. The question is whether they're preparing to fight alongside us or to fight against us. Captain Torres stood up. Admiral, with your permission, I'd like to return to the Keeper's station. He said he would provide more information once we made our decision. Maybe he can tell us more about what we're facing. Admiral Cross nodded. Granted. But this time, take a full diplomatic team. And Dr. Wade, I want you to accelerate your research. On those other installations, we need to know what resources our ancestors left for us. As the meeting began to break up, Dr. Young approached the Admiral. Helen, we need to start thinking about how to tell the public. This isn't something we can keep secret forever? Admiral Cross looked at the reports scattered across the table. 50,000 years ago, humanity's ancestors had made the ultimate sacrifice to save the galaxy. Now their descendants face the same choice. We'll start with limited disclosure. She decided, key military and scientific personnel first. Then gradually expand the circle. But Dr. Young, I want you to begin developing contingency plans. What kind of contingency plans? Plans for if the other species decide that humanity is too dangerous to exist. Plans for if we can't access enough ancient technology in time. Plans for if the barriers fail before we're ready. Over the next week, Admiral Cross watched as her carefully controlled disclosure began to reshape human civilization. Military. Bases received new equipment that seemed to come from nowhere. Scientists suddenly had access to theories that advanced their understanding by decades. Engineers found themselves working with materials that didn't exist according to known physics, but the most significant change was in the people themselves. As more individuals learned the truth about humanity's heritage, something awakened in them. It wasn't just pride or fear. It was a sense of purpose that went beyond personal ambition or national loyalty. Captain Torres returned from his second meeting with the Keeper with news that would finalize their decision. The dark entities had begun actively probing the weakened. Barriers, several remote star systems had gone completely dark, their stars extinguished and their planets consumed. The Keeper estimates we have 5 years at most, Torres reported. The entities remember humanity. They remember the war 50,000 years ago, and they're specifically targeting the regions where they know we might be strongest. Admiral. Cross made the decision that would define humanity's future. She authorized the formation of the Guardian Council, a secret organization that would combine Earth's best military minds, scientists, and diplomats. They would work with the Keeper to unlock humanity's inherited knowledge and prepare for the cosmic threat that their ancestors had died to contain. But she also made another decision. Within 6 months, she would address the United Nations and reveal the truth to the world. Humanity deserved to know who they really were, and what they were fighting for. As she signed the orders that would activate ancient human technology across the galaxy. Admiral Cross thought about the choice their ancestors had made 50,000 years ago. They had given up everything to protect the universe from darkness. Now it was humanity's turn to choose. They could remain the young species they had always believed themselves to be, or they could become the guardians the galaxy desperately needed. The stars were waiting for their answer. And in the growing patches of darkness between those stars, ancient entities stirred with hunger and remembered rage. The galaxy's second war for survival was about to begin. And this time there would be no place left to retreat to. Humanity would either fulfill their ancient destiny as guardians of the light, or everything that existed would be consumed by the returning darkness. Admiral Cross looked up at the night sky through her office window. Somewhere out there, the Keeper waited for humanity's final answer. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations held their breath and hoped that the inheritors would prove worthy of their legacy, and somewhere in the dark spaces between the stars, entities older than worlds prepared for the war they had been waiting 50,000 years to finish.